Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. And I'm sure there'll be people drifting in and out, so that'll be good. My name is Lorraine. I'm the co-chair of the forum group with Mark, and there's about 8 or 10 other people who help get speakers and make things happen. So it's a good group. We are looking to expand and strengthen our group. So there's some information if you want to ask me about it and how to learn more. We also have a basket that will pass to around the group, and that is for funds to help the forum get material for the computers or for microphones and things like that. So we may have expenses in that way. So there'll be a basket passed and one over on the table. And I would like to just say that we're proud to have Ramona Villarreal here with us today. She is very involved in the history of the Brown Berets. And our host today, Barbara Colin-Young, will introduce her. So Barbara's ready.
I'm happy to introduce Ramona Villarreal. She's really an amazing woman. She comes from a migrant family and at age 9, she herself was working in the fields in Wisconsin and in Minnesota with her family. When she was 12, she walked with people who were protesting the conditions of the housing for migrants from Watoma to Madison. That's about 85 miles, and it took 5 days. She's a woman who set goals for herself, and she's going to talk about her life and her work with the Brown Berets. Ramona?
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come and speak to all of you. And thank you, Barb, for asking me. My name is Ramona Villarreal, and I come from a family of 15 brothers and sisters. My interest is an activist and was about like 9 years old, 13, 14. I went all the way to until still where I stand at this time. But I come from a family, like I said, of 15 brothers and sisters. We're all from Laredo, Texas. We were migrants and came from Laredo, Texas to search for a better life. The life of a migrant was very hard in the fields, and we were treated like we had no rights. At that age, I knew I had to either open the doors or, like I say, move the water around at that age. When I was 13 years old, I marched from Watoma to Madison, and like Ms. Barbara said to me, like she's mentioned that it took us 5 days and it's 85 miles. They didn't like us because we were marching for equal pay, house improvement facilities, migrant camps, better pay, better treatment. Because working in a migrant, you don't make a lot of money, but you're in the fields all the time. And so the wage was very little. The conditions of the housing were bad. We had no running water. We were 6 people in a little room with 2 bunk beds. And so therefore the treatment around there, some of you might know where Watoma, Wisconsin is, near Stevens Point, near Wild Rose, around north. So when we got involved in marching and with Cesar Chavez, who was Obrados Unidos, that was the organization that started with him. And then we got into Jesse Salas. And Cesar Chavez was boycotting, if you know and you remember, he was boycotting lettuce and grapes at that time, also for better wage, better housing, better treatment on that. So we were on the picket line. My dad took me to the picket line, and I was out there with a sign. And I would stay there all late, and I think my my sister would say to my mom, "Where's Ramona?" And she's still picking. She's still got the sign going back and forth. Until they told me, well, we all have to go now. We'll be here tomorrow. I said, okay. So the boycott lasted 5 years. At that time, when I marched, I became a Brown Beret. Brown Berets was back the Chicano movement. So people think, well, what is the Chicano movement? The Chicano movement is more a political name, as the Chicano movement of the Brown Berets formed by a couple of people from California. One was David Sanchez, the other one was Carlos Montes. They were known as a youth group for the Chicano movement. So here's this picture where you see, I'm coming around here. Oh, I suppose I'm not supposed to get out of the side. Okay, this picture is me marching from Milwaukee to Madison. I did other marches from Watoma to Madison. This is from Milwaukee to Madison. The night before, I slept in the Teamsters bathroom as we were marching. And then we came up the way to the Capitol, and we had a crowd there waiting for us. And we had a lot of people who were helping us with not only support, but other support that were trying to agree with us with the conditions of the houses. As we sat down with the governor, things are different now in different camps. They have better facilities. They took away caution of other equipment that was out there because the kids were like cutting their hands and their feet, in the stuff that they had. We had running water. Now there's somebody that has to go inspect the camp before somebody is going to be in that camp. So we changed by doing the march on that. And so I became a Brown Beret. So the purpose of it was a youth group for the Chicano movement. And it was an education reform, farm workers' right, and again, against police brutality on that. We were part of the third world on campus, and especially fighting for diversity. We wanted more minorities and we wanted more numbers to increase in the campus. So being an activist as a Brown Beret, because we were fighting for the same cause, we serve, observe, and protect. We were in the front line. So those were the Brown Berets. Now, I am going to explain to you a little bit of the Brown Berets on this. So that one can go. There's one of my pictures there where I am sitting down, taking my picture, and Cesar Chavez, eagle, I'm there sitting down. So when we had another march, when you remember the reform, when everybody went to the Capitol about 10 years ago, it was about 10 years ago. We were fighting for the same cause. If you see a picture next to it up there, I decided to bring that and put it right next to it. The same friend who him and I marched, we were both saw each other there and we bumped into each other and we were for the same cause. So that means since I was little, I was a strong little girl that I set myself goals in life. I knew that in order for us to go forward, it was important to have our education. So it wasn't only wearing the beanie hat Brown Beret, okay? So not only because the Brown Beret were fighting for justice, but in order for that, you have to get educated. Coming from a family of 15 brothers and sisters, my mom went only to second and third grade. But I was determined to say, okay, this is a hard life. things have to change. I have to get educated. And that's exactly what I did. I went to school. I finished from high school. I was the first one in my family. And then I said, okay, that doesn't stop there. I went and got a bachelor's degree, and then I finished and I got a master's degree and became a teacher and retired from teaching. So the Brown Berets as a symbol of a culture, our culture, the race and the history, we were fighting for social justice, fighting against long history of injustice against the Chicano people, which are the Latinos, the Mexican American, even though I was from Laredo, Texas, born in the United States. There were times that we would go into places, turn the sign and say, no Mexicans in here. There was times that my dad took me to grocery store because I told him, and he said, I promise I'm gonna get you a snowball. And at that time, you know, they came out, those little snowballs that you eat. So I was standing there and the fellow did not open the door, sign, no Mexicans in there. So I told my dad, why? Why can't we go in and buy a snowball? Why can't we go in there? And he said, you're too young to understand right now, but later on, you will. So because of my dad also being an activist and marched to from Watoma to Madison and joined the picket line and taught me to be a strong person and fight for justice and equal treatment. I'm here today to share with me my experience in my life. So in Wisconsin, from Green Bay and Milwaukee, they had about 200,000 Hispanics, Mexican Americans. And then in Milwaukee, they had about 30,000 Chicanos. At that time, they called it Chicanos for political reasons, which are Latinos. They were only 12 students in UWM. So 12 students. And this is why the Brown Berets were in the front line fighting for justice in many ways. Now, I am going to, you can take this out, please. Thank you. I am going to show you some of the pictures of the Brown Beret that I'm there, the Brown Beret. And some of the picture right here, Jesse Salas. This is us marching. And the fellow back here is Angel Gutierrez, who started La Raza Unida Party, a national La Raza Unida. So what happened with the Brown Berets? They didn't want, the men didn't want a lot of women in it. There were only men. In this march, you will see all men. There are two women in the back. One is a nun, and another one, it was the wife of some fellow that was there. And I remember very clearly. So with the culture and the machismo, they said, no, the women are to stay home, okay? And their role was as a woman to stay home, take care of the kids and cook. But strong women that kept it together, we made a positive change, bringing working class activism, Brown Berets, and now the Brown Berets are dying, meaning the dying legacy. So what's gonna happen? Well, due to the age participant, there is now a new organization that started here in Milwaukee. But the members of the old Brown Berets are now, there are 4 that passed away already within 2 months. I'm one of the old ones that are still around and want to let you hear the stories. So We can take this one out. Thank you. So this is in right here. If you see me, I'm the one that demonstrating and holding the flag. So why do I have the Brown Beret? I was the only woman, and there was no man who became a Brown Beret in Madison, Wisconsin. No other had been, and I don't think there will be another one at that air because we're in the 224. So just wanted to show you. Over here, they did a story. I give a lot of credit to a fellow by the name David Giffey, who started, he was a writer. He was also historical, writing the newspaper and articles, who play a very important historical role in the historical society. And I was teaching in Spring Green, and I happened to bump into him. Why? Because I was going in front of the board, showing my information of, they wanted to send me and take me at another school, and I already was stable there, but I was fighting again for justice in my point of view. And he goes, "You must be the daughter of Perfecto," which was my dad. He goes, "I know your dad." I said, "Did you remember a newspaper there in Watoma?" I said, "Yes, I used to sell that newspaper." And my brother did too. So he said, I was a writer. So I got to see him, and I got to. But going back to the Brown Berets and some of the stories that I wanted to share with you, I would like the need to preserve the history of the Brown Berets through talks like this, workshops, and other means of education. So I would say I dedicate this talk to those people who are no longer with us, to one of the main guys, which is Ernesto Chacon. I will explain to you later on. No, not yet. And he was one of the march, if you heard of him, if you go into the history of Milwaukee, you will hear that. And I would also like to dedicate this to all of you, Barb and Maria Cruz, who's writing a book about me and the Brown Berets. So giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you. As for me, I always would be a Brown Beret in my heart. I would always fight for justice until the end. So here is one of the pictures that I wanted to show, that all the time that I was teaching, I had this picture at my door, back outside my door. And the school's principal and the superintendent came, he says, "Who's that fellow?" I said, "Wait a minute, what do you mean, who's that fellow?" I said, "Cesar Chavez. He moved the water and opened the doors." So we kept opening the doors and moving the water too. And so I kind of educate him on that, and so there's something new for me to know. So when, do I have a little bit more time or? Okay. So they wrote a story about me. This is David Giffey. And David Giffey did the historical. And I did the walkout in Madison because they were not treated as well. When I started at university, they wanted me to take certain courses. I went into a Spanish class. They said, "No, you can't take Spanish." I said, "Well, why?" you don't say that to the other people. Well, because you speak Spanish. You know Spanish. It's an easy credit for you. I said, because I speak Spanish, that doesn't mean I can read and write the Spanish. I have to learn it. So I went to school, to many schools. When I was a migrant, I was in 9 different schools in 1 year. How can people get educated? I learned Spanish from my mom and my dad. My mother knew how to read Spanish, show us some alphabet. We learned something. But the verbs and all the other that we had to learn, I wanted to take the class. They won't let me take the class. I said, well, let's have a walkout. And that was the walkout. And then we also had, at that time, they were not paying well at the Fair of Pants, where they make the pants. And so we had a big, and as soon as we walked out, we closed the streets and people started joining us. The same thing as we were boycotting grapes and lettuce. The grapes lasted 5 years. Before the 5 years, the lettuce started boycott. We were in Watoma, Wisconsin. David Giffey has a picture of my dad when we were out there and there was a policeman eating grapes in front of him and we have a picket line. So they didn't like us. There were about 20,000 people that would come from all over the United States. So we have 3 types of migrant people at that time. They're all the same, but the migrant stream. So we have from Florida to New York down, which is the tobacco and the lettuce. From the Midwest, we had people from Texas going all the way up to pick at the cucumbers, Christmas trees, potatoes, cherries, Sturgeon Bay cherries. When I landed in Sturgeon Bay, my dad went to look for a place and he said, and I'm not gonna try to get off the line that I'm talking to you, but the Green Bay Packers have just won. And I said, what is that? The football that they win. I said, okay, well, now I'm older. I know what is the Green Bay Packers. So going back to the places where we work and going back with the grapes and the lettuce, they didn't like us speaking, but Cesar Chavez wasn't doing well with the grapes when we boycott. The ranchers would not sign contracts, will not pay them more, will not stop spraying until they can get in, and a lot of people were getting cancer and all of that. So it was tough, but he sent 3 people from California and from Arizona to Wisconsin, where I used to be in high school, and at that time was staying in a place where I only paid $25 a month and going to school. And we told them, okay, let's do this. We're gonna hit the liquor stores. Gallo wine, that's where the Gallo wine, so we went. So we boycott Gallo wine. And then people started coming and helping us. Caucasian people were very kind, came and helped us, and we boycotted. And within a few years afterwards, Gallo wine was hurting, grapes weren't being picked and all of that, and they sat down with Cesar Chavez and signed the contract and won the cause. So I have only one more thing to tell you, and if you have any questions, you're welcome. When I am gone, I want people to remember that I was strong activist. That's why I learned, and that's why I became a strong person and became a Brown Beret. And I stand with you, and I stand with what you believe. Set yourself goals And most importantly, never give up, because I never did. So I have to thank you very much for coming and for giving me the opportunity to share my life. If there's any questions, you're welcome. Yes.
Do we still have migrant workers picking vegetables in Wisconsin?
Yes, we do. So Watoma, Wisconsin used to be 20,000, and then it went down to 5, and then 5,000. And then, so as soon as the ranchers and the camp people who own the products and all of that, they decided to put in, and they did a combine. They did machine. So what picking cucumbers is not the same as the machine comes and rips them off and take them. We could let them grow and pick again, let them grow and pick again 3 or 4 times. And do we have it? Yes. Do they inspect? Yes. So it is, some are in Wapaka, some are in around Watoma, some are in the outside. We have also some that would be in Sturgeon Bay, probably with a cherry. So yes, we do. So we still have some, not as many, but we do.
And are conditions any better?
Yes, they have to go in and inspect the campsite. There's nothing that would be hurtful for the children. They have to have hot water and warm water. There's an inspector that goes in there. Hot water and cold water, excuse me. And then they have to make sure they have enough space to live in there, that because some of the kids die. I mean, some of the kids had problems. When I was a coordinator in Walrose, I was the coordinator of the migrant clinic. So what we did is we knew where the camps were, and then I was in charge of some people who would go and drop diabetes medication, high blood pressure medication, and they would go to the ranches and they would come to the clinic, and the clinic was a free clinic for them. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
First of all, were your siblings as motivated as you? Or, I mean, you seem to have kind of spark, they all are. And also, in the past, was the migrant family came from Mexico, they usually come up to work, and that I had no longer happen.
Mm.
That was accepted.
Okay. I'm gonna answer this last question and I'll go back to the other one. No, there were Mexican Americans where the migrant stream came from Texas. And some of them came from Oklahoma, around that area, but they all migrated to the Midwest. The other ones were California, they went up. So we went to Minnesota in the sugar beets. And even though we were American citizens, they didn't like us. And now that we have difference, it's a little bit different, and it's another world, right? So somebody asked me, what is a migrant and an immigrant? What's the difference between a migrant and immigrant? Well, can a migrant still be an immigrant? Correct, yes. A migrant is somebody who comes and works in the fields and go to different spots and move where the crops is, and then go back to Texas. Their house was in Texas. And with that money, they save, have the kids go to school, eat, there's no work, poor, and then did the migrant stream. We would go from Laredo, Texas, all the way down to Minnesota, work in South Dakota, the potatoes, we work all over, all kinds. They have a Christmas tree that they had in Watoma. They had all kinds of different vegetables that we had to, in the factories, they have the little pickles, canned pickles and corn and all the other crops that we work. And then the other question that I want to answer is, I think I was very determined as early age, seeing that they were very unfair. And when I was going to school, So did my brothers and sisters know I was the first one to finish high school? And then after me, there were 7 more who finished. But before that, some of them left 5th grade, 4th grade, the beginning as young, because my dad said, we gotta work, we don't have any money to eat, we're very poor. And I was also the first one who got a bachelor's degree, and went on, and probably the first one who was determined to do the Ironman. I did 4 times full Ironman. I participated in 7, but I did 4 Ironmans. And I was determined. Had a crash. I didn't make it on the bike. You gotta make certain time on the bike. And the 3rd time was a charm. So my family said to me, why don't you just quit? And the other one said, you're too old. And this, I was 50 years old. And then my other neighbor said, wait a minute, Ramona. You don't stop? You're not gonna, I said, no, I'm have the goals and I'm gonna accomplish the goals. And I did. I accomplished the goals, and my family saw that. But not only that, I accomplished that goal. I flew to Puerto Rico with $150, one-way ticket, didn't know Puerto Rico, didn't know where I was staying, and I stayed there 5 years, and I got a bachelor's degree there. I came to Madison back again, finished the degree, finished my master's degree, retired from teaching. I taught in Cudahy a couple years, came back to Madison, and I taught in Cudahy because Madison wouldn't hire me. Why? They didn't have any Hispanics there, and I was one of the few ones. My degree is in health, physical education, adaptive ed, recreation. So I had 4 licenses, and then I got my master's degree in education. I did a 4-year study in autism. So and I made it tough with my education, but I was determined. So when I finished the Ironman, I had crashes. I would come in, crashes, and my students would say, Ms. Villarreal, did you finish? Did you finish? I said, no. I said, I'm gonna try again. Okay. I said, don't give up. And I wouldn't give up. I told them, I don't give up. So when I finished, I came with my jacket, said Ironman finisher. And I accomplished the goal. And my brothers and sisters, now some of my family have PhD, they have master's degree. They're on other teachers. They also got into other police, but I think my brothers could not have $150 just go to a place and didn't know. And I did well. I mean, I am determined, and I set myself goals. And if you set yourself goals and you get educated, and that's what I'm trying to tell everybody, it's important because my parents went to 2nd and 3rd grade. There was sometimes I was in the fields working, picking up. I had a little can, picking up cucumbers, and my parents would say, water. So I would leave that little one, run and get the water, and you know how those little jugs, and I hardly made it, but I would come. And I pick cucumbers. But not everybody was nasty to us. I want to say the nice things about them too. There was a lady who went with the car really slow, went to the side when we were sitting down. She opened the door, put a box of books and toys. So we were delighted with those toys and happy because we didn't have toys. We didn't have books. We never had books. Parents didn't have money. We hardly had money to eat. But as determined we were, then my brothers and sisters saw that I am, and they call me hard-headed because, and they come and tell me, well, I have trouble with it. I said, well, think, go to school. Well, anybody has to work and go to school. So my background as a determination is not to give up. You're never too old. You're never too old to do new stuff. And if I stop doing things, I might as well sit down in a chair or get a rocking chair, and I'm not that type of a person. I am almost 70 years old. So, any question?
How long were the Brown Berets active in Milwaukee?
They were active. I'm sorry? Yes.
How long were the Brown Berets active in Milwaukee?
How long were the Brown Berets active in Milwaukee's? So the Brown Berets started back in 1967 and ended in 72. And that was 5 years, but they were still active as in the protest in different parts of the US. Plus, we were still active in Milwaukee too. You know, even though they said they ended, but it really never ended. It never ended to me because I consider myself a Brown Beret and I am in the marches. I went and support the tuna credit who had a big strike in Madison. And I went out there and supported them, and I was boycotting them because they said they weren't getting paid. And this wasn't only, there weren't a lot of Latinos in there. There were Caucasians, but I support them because they weren't asking for much, but yet they wouldn't bargain with them. And last week, I was walking my dog, and this man stopped me. I didn't know this fellow. He said, "You were out there picking line." I said, "Yes, I am." With the tuna credit. He goes, "Yes, I was." He goes, I said, "Do you work? Do you work there?" He goes, "Yes, I do." And we settled the following week. I said, "Well, good. I am happy for it." But, and he lived around my neighborhood, and I didn't know that.
Tell them about the potato.
Factory, okay. So my dad, my sister, and I were working in Bancroft, Wisconsin, in the potato factory. And you have to find, wherever you find jobs, no more cucumbers, but potato factory came, and so they have a combine, and they're cleaning the potatoes, the old potatoes, and the small ones, you put them someplace, and there was a combine going, and we went, and they weren't paying us enough. But the Caucasian people, they were getting paid more than we, $1 more. So we said, "Wait a minute, that's not fair." My dad said, "No, it's not fair." I said, "Pick a line, Dad." You know, I kept saying to him in Spanish, and he goes, "Wait a minute," and talk to the other Latinos there, the other Mexican Americans, the other Hispanic people. "Yes, okay, we're gonna walk out." He called Jesse Salas, who usually was one of the persons who would find, but we were working there. "Let's walk out." We did a walkout. We got signs. We were walking around and kept signs, and we didn't go to work. We had very little food, but we did the walkout, and we were there. Finally, the fellow settled with us and gave us the money that we wanted. Why? Because the potatoes, they didn't have enough manpower to work on the potato. So they also, potatoes were going to waste. So it was already smelling like potatoes, rotten potatoes. So right away, they gave us the wage that we wanted, and we finished the combine, and we were done. We finished that potato as we were working on the combine, and the product was done, and he had no choice. And noticed that we do. Yes, ma'am. The migrant camp in Belgium? I don't, I'm not a, I cannot give you an answer on that because I really don't know if it's still open, but there's still people coming there every year. And if the farmer, that's the farmer way of making their money, and you have good employees, well, you're gonna have them come back, if, you know, and if they are happy, but they have a little job in Texas, and then come back and feel like they can make a little bit more money than what they're doing in Texas, that changes for them, yeah. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. The last picture? Oh, one more, okay. So because Cesar Chavez moved the water and opened the doors for us, when he died, he was fighting in court. And he was, first 2 days, he was winning the court against some ranchers. And the third day, when it was the court, something like that happened. He died in his sleep, Cesar Chavez. So Cesar Chavez, I had to go and see. I went to his compound. He's buried there in his own place. And that's his son and the wife over here. Took a picture with them. If you notice, my hair wasn't too gray, but I was wanted to see, and it is amazing what he has there. He has in the background 7, how can I say that? Falling water, little streams. And I asked his son, why does he have 7? Each one that died while he was in the marshes and he was protesting. Some of them got killed by other people. And so to remember, he did like a fountain for each one in the background of, if you notice the back of, he's got, that's what it is. And if you go to Yuma, it's amazing to see. They have a big window where Chavez was there the last time he used his office. The way it is, it's still like that. He wasn't a fancy man. He didn't want a luxury table, desk, or chair. He had, you know, when you go outside or go to the beach, you have those folding chairs. That was his chair. And he had just a regular little table and all the stuff there was. He was an amazing man because he fought for a lot of us. And Maria Guardia was the other lady who was a teacher at that time, who they got together, and they're the ones that formed the flag. So this is a picture. I already show you a Cesar Chavez, and that's how I see him. Excuse me.
You forgot to tell them you're a world athlete, considered a world athlete.
I am a world athlete, and I was very proud of myself. And I'm gonna tell the story of what I did. When I went to Puerto Rico, I went and compete. Because Puerto Rico, I started running in Puerto Rico. So started running at East High School in Madison, and then I went to Puerto Rico. When I went to Puerto Rico, of course, I didn't know anybody, but I would run. And then I went to the university. I think I went 5 times to try to get in, and they won't let me. So I sat down and told him. Finally, he said, well, little girl, it looks like you really want to go to school, right? Yes. So he said, okay, come tomorrow and fill out the application. But you needed $20 to fill out application. So I said, sir, do you think you can let me the $20? And I promise I pay for you because I already have a job. And he looked at me and shook his head. He says, okay. And I did. I paid for it. But anyway, I went back to Puerto Rico to do an Ironman because I thought, well, you have to come in first to do the Ironman in order to qualify so you can go and compete in the Worlds. So I did. So this time I go, well, I'm going to try Puerto Rico. So I did. I did win, and I qualified again. So the second time I go, well, that's great. And the lady wanted that so bad, the one that I beat. I said, well, have you ever gone to the Worlds? She said, no, but my husband just won, and I couldn't beat you, and you did well. You're an outstanding athlete. And I said, but I'm gonna be doing this Ironman where my family is. I said, you know what? You take my slot. I'll let you go. So the thing is, if you want somebody else to have it, the ones in back of you, you could do it. So I gave it to her. And so I am a world athlete in the Ironman. The Ironman is brutal, but nothing is hard as long as you practice. So you go in the water, you swim 2.5 miles, you get out of the water, you bike 210 miles, you get out of the bike, you run 26-mile marathon. But while you're doing it, you have to get out on time and make sure, even in the run, if they know that you cannot make the turn, they completely take you out. So I did well. I had more than 2 hours to spare. So I am a world athlete, and I started running in Mexican Fiesta, where they dedicate as a martial athlete. So thank you very much, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Ramona. That was wonderful. And thank you for coming.
You're welcome.